Hello, you're listening to Two Old Chuffs, a tale of two hospices. I'm Tamsin Thomas.
And I'm Gina Starnes.
And we're recording this podcast to mark Lymphoedema Week. And we do mark this week every year for a lot of reasons. One is for people to understand what it is and how we help people who suffer from lymphedema. But also it's about talking about part of the hospice that I don't think people always know exists.
No, we have a hugely busy service, and you're very right, Tamsin. Actually, it just needs a bit of an increase in profile, and actually Lymphoedema Week is a real opportunity to do that.
And of course, it busts a myth, doesn't it, lymphedema, because people come in for an hour and go again.
Absolutely, they do, and the clinics are so busy. We have a huge cohort of patients who are absolutely within that kind of discrete lymphedema service.
Well, they come in, and when they're at Mount Edgecombe Hospice, which is where we're recording today's podcast, they meet Helen Treleaven.
Hi, Tamsin.
It's nice to see you here for
and
the podcast.
You.
Just tell us a little bit about you and your role.
Okay, so I'm Helen. I'm the Clinical Specialist at Mount Edgecombe Hospice, and I run the Lymphoedema Clinic. And anyone that comes to see me has cancer-related lymphedema.
And now the big question, and I knew you'd be ready for this, and Gina will back you up if you get lost halfway through. What is lymphedema?
Okay, so lymphedema is where you have got an impaired lymphatic system, and our patients, that is through having cancer, surgery, chemotherapy or radiotherapy, so they have an additional swelling that they can't move on their own. So we do lots of different treatments, so massage, kinesiotape, we use a machine which is intermittent pneumatic compression and compression hosiery, so all of our patients can have a variety of those treatments. Some have all of them, some only need one or two different treatments.
And it is right, isn't it, that people come in, have a treatment, go again.
Absolutely.
You're helping them to carry on
Absolutely, yeah,
living.
without doubt. So they come to us for a really short period of time. We teach them everything that they need to know, education, how to self-manage their condition, and then they get discharged. If they need us at a later date, then they come back to us. But yeah, our aim is to do them self-management and self-manage their condition for lifelong.
And you also support the families, don't you? I think this is a little known fact. Sometimes you have to meet the partner of
Absolutely.
A patient to show them things that you
so
can
quite
do.
often on an initial assessment we'll bring in the partner, a partner or a friend or somebody that they're really comfortable with, so that they can come along their journey with them, so that they can ask all the questions that the patient might have forgotten to ask. But we'll also teach the carer or partner how to manage as well. So we'll do hands-on massage techniques, so I have my hand next to theirs and we show them the different pathways. So yeah, we quite often help the carers, so I think they go along with the journey as well, but are quite often forgotten about.
And you see, if you ask people outside of our hospice, they don't necessarily know this, do they?
They don't always, and they probably wouldn't know how to spell it either. I think it's one of the
Nor do I.
with the longest and most complicated names when you listen to Helen reading them off. But I think it's really important that we we kind of increase the profile and make sure that people do understand, because actually I think although Helen and Chris down at St Julia's have lots of referrals, actually, I think when you have lymphedema, it's really quite a worrying symptom to have, and I think actually to be put into contact with somebody who can actually support you as a family through that is really important.
And of course, all the money that's raised by the good people of Cornwall who ensure that this charity exists, it's not just paying for the people who are in hospice beds, it's paying for this service too.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and it's invaluable because the amount of times we'll have a patient just ring up to say we've quite, forgotten what we're meant to be doing from a massage point of view, or have carers ring up to say I'm supporting their loved one and can we talk about it. So quite often I'll be on the phone actually doing a massage technique on myself, trying to tell the patient how to manage it themselves. So we do a lot of behind the scenes stuff as well. We do a lot of psychological support as well. People come to us if they've had an additional swelling or an additional diagnosis. So we're there. An initial assessment would be about 2 hours long, and normally about 20 minutes of that is lymphedema, and the rest of it is actually their cancer journey. So they get to tell us exactly from the day they got diagnosed all the way to where they are now.
And how many services are there in Cornwall, Helen, that provide that?
So there's myself and Chris at the hospices, and then we've got our colleagues at the NHS. But so there's 4 clinicians, 2 in the NHS and 2 in the hospice.
And the great thing is when they come here, no charge.
No charge, no, and we are not. We can kind of see the patients for as long as clinically necessary. Quite often clinics will be told how many appointments they can have. But like a physio, you normally have 6 appointments, whereas us, as long as there's a clinical need, we can see that patient. And sometimes you need to bring them in for additional treatments if you know that they're struggling, whether that's psychologically or not. And then we just slowly let them build up their own confidence, and then we can move the appointments further apart. But it's always in unison with the patient. We work out what the patient wants and work with them.
Speaking of that, sitting very quietly around this table, taking it all in and not getting a word in edgeways, I do apologise once we 3 get going. It's Sarah, who's one of your patients, and it's lovely to meet you.
Lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Tamsin.
It's really good. We could carry on saying how wonderful the service is and how wonderful our charity is, and people would say, well, you would say that, wouldn't you? You can tell us what it's like from the other side.
Yes, it's really been invaluable to me. I can't stress enough how much it's changed everything for me. Coming out of a sort of cancer treatment, which was sort of just over a year ago now. And then I was trying to think how long I'd been coming to see you, Helen. I think it's probably is coming on for a year, I would say.
Yeah.
But after treatment finishes, you sort of think things might try and go back to normal a little bit. And I had heard of lymphedema when I was first diagnosed, but I didn't really have a great deal of knowledge about it. It was something that I sort of read about a little bit in some of the notes I was given from the Mermaid Centre, and I remember thinking, I hope that doesn't happen to me, because it's another thing. I hope not. It sounds horrible, I thought to myself. I don't know how I'd cope with it. And then, sort of fast forwarding, towards the end of my treatment lasted for about just over a year and comprised hormone therapy and surgery and radiotherapy. And 6 months after surgery, I did think, goodness me, what is happening to me here? And I assumed it was the after effects of surgery, and it was. I had gone back for a checkup, and the radiographer had said I have a very cross breast, which I thought was quite a nice way of saying it. Did make me smile amongst it all. And so me and my very cross breast were just sort of trying to work out, what was happening. And but then I do distinctly remember one day being in the shower and looking down, and everything was so misshapen, and the skin was quite dimpled, and I remember thinking that's a sign of cancer. So going back to what you said about the psychological treatment as well, it was very much, once you've been through it, you sort of really get very worried and think, is it coming back? And, there's a lot to cope with. So not long after that, I went and had another checkup, and I was diagnosed with lymphedema, and that's when then I remembered lymphedema. And not long after that, I was then referred to come and see Helen.
And what did you think when they said, you're going to come and see Helen, but she's based at the hospice?
Well, I thought, that's great, because I don't have to drive to Truro.
Fantastic.
To be honest. And the fact that it was here in the hospice, I mean, on a personal level, my mum's around the corner, so it's brilliant for me in terms of geography, and I had no qualms at all about coming into the hospice at all. It was just, I just felt really grateful that there is this service, because I realised that I really did need some help with managing it. I was very worried about it. I didn't really know what I was in for. I didn't know. I did sort of have an inkling that it was lifelong, a lifelong condition, but I didn't have any idea how to manage it. I mean, at this point, I couldn't really touch any of my breast where it was, you know, and I knew I'd have to massage it, and I was really scared to even, because it was so numb and, you know, had been sort of so obviously manipulated a lot during the surgery, so it was difficult on lots of levels. But in terms of coming to the hospice, no, it was fantastic.
Now, we could send her out at this point, but Helen's going to sit through this. What did you think when you met Helen?
I thought, wow, how wonderful to have, firstly, that she was so friendly, instantly put my mind at rest, obviously completely professional, but so warm and kind, and really knowledgeable, obviously, because she's a specialist. But, you know, when you have someone like myself who knows nothing, and it obviously feels very scary, to be able to sort of be so reassuring so early on was absolutely wonderful, and I feel very lucky. And I know that we're meant to space the appointments further and further apart, but I tried to say, no, it's 2 weeks, it's still 2 weeks. Every time I come here, because I don't want to stop coming.
And you have a wonderful term for Helen, don't you?
I do, actually, and I really do. I do believe this very strongly. I told Helen that she was like a horse whisperer for my breast, and I didn't really know a sort of better way of saying it. I'm not saying that I'm a horse, but what I mean by that is that Helen knows exactly the exact perfect pressure, and it's not like, I just want to explain to people, it's not like a normal massage. It's not just sort of relieving a bit of tension. It's something so personal and internal and deep, and the feeling that I get after having a specialised massage such as this is not something I can do on myself. I'm getting better at it, but it's nowhere near how Helen does it, because she just knows exactly on a physical level and an emotional level, because there are certain days when, you know, if you're not having a very good day, Helen will pick up on that and adapt accordingly, and that's what I mean by it. It's a very sort of it's a very personal thing, and the feeling I get when it actually makes me sort of feel normal again after, you know, in cancer treatment, it's obviously so emotional, and you're dealing with so many different on so many different levels. But she just really gets the emotional side of it and the emotional impact. And I remember our first meeting, Helen said the aim is to not have the lymphedema at the front of your mind all the time, but put it at the back.
Absolutely.
And it really stuck with me, that phrase, because I thought, you know, before I was here, it was just thinking, oh goodness me, I've got to do this all day long, and how am I going to cope with it? And it was the reassurance that Helen gave. It's just a really wonderful treatment, and I'm very aware of how lucky we are to have this here in Cornwall, and it's very specialist. But it has, without this treatment, my life after cancer would be so much harder, without a doubt. I wouldn't be able to do it properly. So thank you, Helen, I should say. Getting a bit emotional.
Actually, you don't realise the impact that you have on people's lives, because we do our job. You know, this is what we trained for years to do, and to kind of hear Sarah say that, you sometimes as clinicians you forget what we do for patients. You know, and it's not much. It's not just about the teaching. It's everything else that goes with it. The hour-long appointments that we have. You get to really know your patients on a really personal level as well.
I do think that you go beyond it as well, what's required, because, for instance, on the day before Christmas Eve, I came in for a massage, and it was the day of my aunt's funeral, and I was feeling very sort of vulnerable anyway, and you noticed that there was an area that I was not able to cope with a massage on, sort of around my scarring, and it was quite painful. And you asked me, or you suggested that I go and get checked in the loveliest way. And I was quite upset for the rest, because but you were brilliant. You were very calm. You relaxed me. You said it's probably nothing to worry about, but do get checked just in case. It was really wonderful, and I did, and everything was all right. So, but it was really special. I think that was a special day.
Thank you. It's that ability, isn't it, to know each other. I think when you're doing something so personal, Helen, and actually, it's a big ask, I think, for anybody to have that kind of deep massage with somebody they don't know.
Absolutely.
And also to pick up on all those nuances is it's a real skill set, and I think sometimes we do forget how much we actually are doing without realising, like you say, and it's important.
Yes.
It's important for your patients to feel comfortable to be able to say that.
Yes, you completely read the situation, and and then there's other times where we're chatting away and it's
laugh and joke all the way
laugh and
through,
joke.
and then before you know it, it's like
Yes.
your appointment's gone and we let that time go. Well, I think it's important as clinicians we get to know our patients really well, so you can be with them along their journey. You can see the highs, you can see the lows, and because we get to know each, whichever area that we're working on really quite well. It's for you, there was a slight change, wasn't there? And it's like normally
Yes.
you can clear the fluid and it clears really well, and all of a sudden it was like something's not quite right here. And that's really hard to actually say to somebody, especially Christmas Eve.
You did it so well.
You think of all the days to have to say it, and part of me was going, do I say anything or do I wait till after Christmas? And then, but you think actually the clinic in you, so we had to say it. But
Well, you did it brilliantly, I have to say, and yes.
I was really excited after I'd met you first time, Sarah, and you'd mentioned this horse whisper of the breast. And I came back and sent an email to Gina and Helen saying, Sarah's going to talk to us on the podcast, and the title's going to be, and there were raised eyebrows. But listening to you, it makes sense, doesn't it? You are a bit of a horse whisperer. Had you ever thought of it that way?
No, I think we just look at, we do head and neck, we do, massage throughout the whole of the body wherever it's affected. And I think with our training, you look at what's in front of you and you kind of look at the scar tissue. So your anatomy and physiology comes into things. So you look at where the surgery has, where the radiotherapy's been, what chemotherapy they've had. So there's all of this background stuff that goes on and then when you just touch somebody, you kind of just know where that fluid's going to go, and if it doesn't quite go, you just work out different routes, and you get to know people really intimately because of that, and every breast that we do is very different, and the hundreds of breasts that I see, they're all very different in their own way, and then all of a sudden you touch a breast and you go, something's not quite right, or actually, this is cleared really, really well, you've been working more on it. So we can always tell patients that have been working on their breasts and the patients that haven't quite been working on the breast as well. So you do get to know where to go.
I'm just delighted that you haven't been blowing in Sarah's ear for a year.
Up the nose and in the ear.
Definitely not.
I suppose it is a horse whisper of breast,
I mean, I can't stress enough that it's not just like any normal, like a normal massage. It's something much deeper than that, really, and that's what I sort of mean by it. And in terms of all the area that you do, I mean, Helen will also massage round on my back, because I had quite extensive radiotherapy and I just can't get round there to do it. And however much I try and do what you do, I can't. And you would think that you could do it to yourself in terms of the right pressure and everything, but it is such a great feeling afterwards. It's sort of, everything feels lighter and sort of normal and pre-cancer, really, which is why it's sort of so special. It feels like, this is a little bit like how it was before, which is just, you don't think about them, I think that's what it gives me. I'm just afterwards, I don't have to think about it for a while. And the rest of the time, you're always reminded of the cancer in lots of ways, whether you're, on the medication and you're tired, or you can't quite do what you used to do. And I think with lymphedema, I just thought, it's always going to be there now. I'm going to have even more reminders of it all the time. But that's not the case. And I feel you taught me as well to do it myself, and now I can touch myself enough to do that again, whereas before I didn't even want to. I just avoided that area completely because it was painful, or I just didn't want to even go there. So I remember after a couple of visits, I came back and I said, I did it myself, and I was quite pleased with myself that I'd managed to do it. Still nowhere near as good as Helen, but I had managed. And I think it's just learning that it is completely manageable. I mean, I'm aware I don't have it very severely, so I can't obviously talk for, people who may have it worse, but I really notice if I don't come and see you. I do really notice a difference. There's been a couple of times where the appointments have had to be sort of further apart for various reasons, and then I'm like, I'm going to see Helen tomorrow. I'm really happy.
You come through the curtains and it's like getting stripped off. Like close the curtain first, please.
Speed. I was last time. I think that's true. I was like whipped everything off.
It's like, I'm here, Helen. It's great.
Catch up.
I'm like trying to wash my hands quickly. It's like, come on then.
I'm sorry.
There was a lady last year for Lymphoedema Week who wrote a bit about the treatment she was having for lymphedema with your colleague Chris, and she talked about the flutter.
Yes.
Have you felt the flutter?
Afterwards, I definitely feel it's a sort of tingling sensation, but it's where everything is light again. I think that's the way to explain it. It's a little bit like if you go cold water swimming, go jump in the sea, and afterwards you come out and there's this really sort of lovely sort of tingly, sensation in your hands and everything, and you sort of, it's similar because it just gives it's a certain sort of relief from the, I wouldn't say pain, it's not really so much pain, it's more just feeling uncomfortable and heavy and all the swelling and everything, and it's this wonderful relief that I get after a massage, and it's brilliant.
And do all patients make a point of telling you, Helen, how they feel? Because sometimes the feeling must be after they've been with you.
Yeah, so before every appointment we kind of work out, have they been struggling this week? Where has it been struggling? Have they got any areas of concern? Where are they struggling to massage? And normally, you can feel that straight away from before the patient's told you, clocking what's happening to the breast. And then we just work off on them, and halfway through sometimes people just kind of go, oh. And it's like, are you okay? So we always kind of make eye contact just to make sure that the patients are okay, and they just kind of went, and my breast just feels normal, or it feels normal for us, that heavy aching sensation has gone, and afterwards they're kind of grabbing their breast, kind of go, my bra feels better, you can look down and their breasts just feel a little bit normal for them, and that's kind of what we want, because post-surgery your breast will never be what it was like pre-cancer. So if we can make somebody feel a little bit like they were before they had cancer, so that they're not walking around with a heavy aching breast, that's our job. That to me is the most important part actually for what I feel is. So when you have somebody to say that they're feeling a little bit normal, and actually that they can touch their breast, because that's the biggest hurdle for a lot of our patients, is actually touching your area that's been affected. And sometimes it takes us a long time. Sometimes we just sit in clinic talking to the patients because they're not ready for us to touch their breast or even look at their breast. Yeah, quite often, so they'll be sitting there fully closed, and we will talk to them how to massage their breast on top of their clothes until they're ready for us to look at their breast, because they are so...
it's a form of trauma, isn't it?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Definitely,
yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
It took me a while. But I did feel you did instill a real sense of confidence after that first meeting, which was lovely. And I thought, no, I can do this. And I thought, I'm going to really try really hard. And that was something that you gave me. But it was, it was quite a transformation, really. And when I sort of realised, actually, this is something that I can do. And it's, I did always feel very grateful for all the treatment that I had. And, you sort of are very aware that how lucky we are to have these options, and that's what sort of stayed with me really throughout all of it. So yes, having seen you, I think it was definitely, I did feel much more confident very quickly after. But having said that, I still want to come along.
You're not discharged yet.
Not discharged yet.
So Helen is a part of your journey.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. And a big. I mean, I can't really stress enough how important it is. Really, I mean, going back to the first time I thought something was wrong, it was so, my breast was so misshapen. I was so scared, and it looked like there was an implant in it that had sort of turned around and was poking out this side, and I thought, what on earth has happened? And I really, obviously now it was 6 months worth of fluid build-up that had, that's probably not the right term, is it, Helen?
It's what we use, layman's terms, it's perfect.
But obviously I didn't know, and it was scary. It was really, really scary. So to have that scary situation treated in such a compassionate way, it was really, really lovely. I was just, like I said, felt very lucky to be able to come here.
I think the lymphatic system is a very hidden system, isn't it? We all know about veins and arteries, but actually I think you don't expect something that you don't hear about to create that much of a difference. And like you say, once you've gone through all that chemo and the radiotherapy and the surgery, you kind of think, I need to have my head in the right place now to move forward.
Absolutely, yes.
And that must set you back quite a way potentially, unless you know that you've got somebody that you can link into to help you go forward.
I think that's very well described, actually, because you do sort of come out of all the treatment, and it's been, it's obviously so grateful to be, to be here. I just want to say that, and I'm. But it's a very long, hard road. So yeah, I was just exhausted, and then lymphedema was there, and it's like, oh goodness me, it's another thing. But you're very much part of my life, and it really helps so much. I can't because if I didn't see Helen, I would be walking around with it would just be awful.
And imagine now how important and how kind it is of you to join this podcast, because someone somewhere might listen to this, look at their breast and think, well, that's what I've been dealing with then. And suddenly you've given it a name, or you've given it a reason for being that will lead them.
Or they might not even know what it is, but then in the future they realise, because a lot of patients think that their cancer's come back.
Absolutely, I did. I think it was especially the Peu d'Orange.
Yeah,
get
you.
See, look at me with my phrases.
The what?
Orange peel.
Oh right.
Peu d'Orange it's
Peu
called.
d'Orange, orange peel, which is it's where your skin has got little dimples, and I know that it's very
Great, I love it.
I know that it's.
Sorry, who's the expert?
You don't need me, Sue, you don't need me.
I did, when I first saw it, that was a very scary moment, because I did know that was a potential cancer indicator, and I very much thought, has it come back, this is what I'm looking at now, and that was really frightening, but I've subsequently learned that it's an indication of, obviously it's an indication of lymphedema because of the protein being pulled under the skin, I believe.
I'm going
to stop now.
Uniform.
I'm going to stop now because I don't know what I'm talking about now anymore. But it's so for anyone, yes, I would definitely say for anyone listening, it's not necessarily the scary thing that you think, and that has really eased up on me as well. Without a doubt, I hardly notice that anymore. Compared to initially, it was suddenly very noticeable.
And that must be such a lonely moment.
Yes, it was really, because I think I had been really avoiding, even like you said, people can't even look. I hadn't even really been looking, you sort of just, I was very incredibly grateful to still have my breasts. I was offered a mastectomy immediately. The 2 tumours were very large, but because they were slow growing, I ended up having breast conservation surgery after a year's worth of treatment to try and shrink the tumours, which I responded to successfully, which is very, very lucky. So so I'm really, I'm very, very lucky that happened, that I was able to have breast conservation surgery. But having said that, you do end up with a breast that feels very different, and I was avoiding it really. So when I suddenly did look down and see, I was really shocked, and I thought, goodness me, what on earth's going on? Something is not right. This isn't just the effects of surgery. Something different is happening, and I need to, go back.
Kind of underpins, and I'm looking at Gina and Helen now, the importance of see something unusual, ask.
Absolutely.
Because there's somewhere in Cornwall, there's someone can help.
Absolutely.
Always.
Yeah, we always don't I felt a difference in Sarah's breast. We send them back. If in doubt, if you're worrying about anything, get hold of your GP, go back to the Mermaid Centre. You have to go back. Don't waste a night's sleep worrying about it, because there's normally something that somebody can do to help you. So act on it straight away, which is what we always say to all of our patients.
And I remember something I was going to say actually, which was that day when everything felt very sore. Subsequently, the next time I came back to see you and things had eased up, you explained how stress can have a real impact on your lymphedema.
Absolutely.
And I was very stressed that day, and it was much more sore than it normally would have been. And I found that really interesting, and it's something you can sort of arm yourself with that knowledge for future times. Obviously, it's very good to get things checked, but I did. I went and had another mammogram, and everything was fine. But it's quite interesting, I think, how you're just learning more about your body as well. It's definitely been educational seeing you as well. So
that's what we say to all of our patients: listen to their bodies. When your breast is different, and you know when you need to do more massage. And also, it's important when you don't need to do the massage. When you kind of think, actually, it feels okay today. You still probably do it morning and evening, but there's times where we ask patients to do it multiple times a day. So it's just getting used to their breast, how it feels before and after a massage, which is really important, because then if there are any future developments with tumours or whatever, you already know what your breast should feel like. So we always say to our patients, do your monthly checks as a breast standalone. So do your one that's not affected to your one that is affected, so that you get to know the lumps and the bumps, what's normal for that breast, which is so important, because so many people get a scare because they're doing the breast at the same time. And obviously post-surgery it will always feel different. But stress has a huge
And your
implication.
senses must be very heightened as well.
Absolutely, and the more stressed you are, then the more profound your lymphedema is. So quite often, if people are waiting for test results, or they're being called back in, or jobs or life, or just life in general can be really stressful, there'll be an impact on your lymphedema. And it's just reiterating that. And we quite often have those phone calls with patients of what's going on, and by the time you've talked to them, it's like we've got to the bottom of where it is, and then we'll either bring them in and give them an additional treatment, or we just talk to them over the phone and get them to redo their massage.
So what would someone do if they've listened to what Sarah said and they're thinking, oh, I kind of fit into this? Where is the first port of call?
So you can get referred in through the breast care nurses, or whichever CNS you're under, so head and neck, gynae, whichever CNS consultants and GPs can refer in. And we've got our email address, which is on the website, and they've all got referral forms. And then we get hold of the patients normally within a couple of days of receiving the referral, and get people booked in as soon as we can.
And this is a really busy service, isn't it, this one?
It's a hugely busy service, and I'm always delighted when I hear Helen talk that actually, sometimes that time when you know that you've had somebody who's been back to their breast care nurse, and then they think they maybe have to wait 6 weeks before somebody contacts them, and then it's another few weeks before they can get an appointment. But to be able to speak to somebody within a couple of days and think, well, actually, Helen is the most organised person with her diary ever.
All horse whisperers are,
This is true. So I know that she will, contact somebody, have that discussion, and then make an appointment, on the back of that phone call, and will, if somebody needs to come in perhaps sooner than she would have, actually, she would always try to, have capacity within her diary, because actually she absolutely understands that waiting time is really it's important that you see somebody who is a specialist and has the knowledge that can help and support. So I think, actually it's a hugely busy clinic in all kinds of ways. But what I would say is that actually it's that waiting time once Helen has that referral to be able to contact the other person at the end of the phone is really quite short, which is lovely.
I absolutely agree, and I remember it was very quick. For me, when I went back to the Mermaid to be checked and lymphedema was mentioned, I think I came in to see you within a week or so.
Yeah, it's really quick.
It was so, which is really important at that stage because, you're thrown into emotional turmoil as well as the physical uncomfortable, feelings. So it was very reassuring to be able to come in so swiftly. Yes, I remember feeling very grateful.
And also, I think Gina and I would say, if you're listening to this podcast and it's been brilliant, Sarah, you've been so open and honest
you're welcome.
and descriptive of what you've been through. We have another podcast called Love Your Lymph. I love that title. But Gina and I spoke to you, Helen, and your colleague Chris from St Julia's Hospice. And I think if you think that this might be a route you're going down, or you're just beginning the breast cancer surgery or whatever cancer, have a listen, because you can do it in your own time and really find out more, because it's one of those big words that looms at you and you think, I'll ignore that for a minute.
That's exactly what I did when I first heard it. I thought, oh no, let's not think about that. let's not go there.
Well, thank you so very much, Sarah. It's been an absolute pleasure, hasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
You're very welcome. I think I have to thank you, really, all, because
you the horse whisperer, deserve the biggest thanks.
Absolutely, you do. And it's really life-changing, I would say. So thank you.
That's a big note to end on. Lovely to speak to you, Helen, and to you, Sarah.
Thank you very much.
And Gina, good to see you. You've been listening to Two Old Chuffs, A Tale of Two Hospices, the podcast from Cornwall Hospice Care.